The Browns did sign some folks to the practice squad. We'll take a look at some of the names that have in fact come back. Dalen Baldwin back on the practice squad. Came in late. The Browns brought him in late in camp, and he played pretty well. They also did sign a couple of tight ends. Jalen Mitchell re-signs with them. Also defensive tackle Roderick Perry re-signs with the Browns practice squad. Herb Miller, a cornerback who was a little bit intriguing, back on the practice squad. You mentioned a couple of wide receivers. Mike Harley, the second one as well, back on the practice squad. Cornerback Sean Jolly re-signs on the practice squad, as does the tight end Miller Forrestall. They also got John Kelly back, a running back on the practice squad. The one guy they did not get back was Blake Hanse. The 49ers claimed him. Not a surprise, similar running scheme, and Hanse showed some versatility when he was called on with the Browns.
Blake Hanse obviously played left guard in a playoff game for this team. Last year played some left tackle, didn't play so well at left tackle. He actually played pretty well at right tackle. Always been a better run blocker than a pass blocker, just not really a big enough, heavy enough guy to sit and anchor to handle the pass rush. But for Blake Hanse, what's the better path to playing time? He hadn't played, much here at all. You had Jack Conklin coming back. You had Jedrick Wills. There was an opening spot for him. And I think one of the things that, was difficult for Blake Hanse was when they got down to the fact that they were now on their second string center as a starter, and now they needed a reserve center. Michael Dunn played there, showed well there. So that put him in a spot where he was more favorable to the coaching staff because he could do a little bit more as a reserve offensive lineman. Blake Hanse, not the worst thing in the world, though. You're going off to San Francisco, a team that competed in the NFC Championship game last year. So for him, it was the best. That'll always be a good, cool story. A guy named Blake and showed up basically out of nowhere, participated in one of the biggest Browns moments probably ever over the last 2 decades. So he moves on. The 2 wide receivers coming back, Jalen Mitchell, it's interesting. He caught everything that was thrown to him this summer. Bigger guy. We didn't really get to see him run the full route tree, but, every route he ran, he was able to produce into a first down. What's the key with playing the wide receiver position that we see, with the struggles of Anthony Schwartz is actually catching the ball. He was able to do that. Mike Harley, everybody kind of liked him over the summer at the University of Miami, undrafted free agent, brings some return ability, showed some things in his time, but it was a difficult spot. There were guys who made this roster who were drafted or were brought in by this regime. Those guys were going to have basically the hierarchy of the pecking order. But for the Browns, they get back 2 young guys that they were impressed with and wanted to work with a little bit more. Look, there's only 5 wide receivers on the 53, so anything can happen on any given Sunday as whether or not somebody's going to get a call up from the practice squad. So it's good for these guys, that they get to continue the opportunity. And, everybody talks about players moving, but it's really difficult because when you move on and you get claimed now, the practice time is not nearly in season as much as it is now. So it's a lot more put on the players as far as getting themselves ready, learning playbooks, learning offenses. So for these 2 young guys, that's one less hurdle they have to worry about. They can just go in every day, try and be comfortable and, make the most of any opportunity that's afforded to them.